Hey, coming up is a chat with a guy called Drew Chapman. Drew started as a junior in a local radio station, has gone on to be one of the most senior executives in Australian radio. He's been music manager and program director on places like CFM, Austereo Network, Triple M, B105. He was at River FM. He's currently working at the Australian Radio Network, a major player in our game. And Drew's a passionate supporter of local Aussie music. Obviously, there are things with radio where they're very restricted, especially in urban markets from a centralised position, how things work. But he's got a lot of great ideas about how artists can still work with radio and how the importance of radio and what should be going on between radio and our artists. So, yeah, check it out. If you like these little chats I'm doing, please subscribe now on this channel so I can let you know when new episodes come up. If you have a story to tell, doesn't matter if it's a big story or a small story, just email me at AussieLocalAndLive@gmail.com, and I'd be keen to have you on to have your chat. Finally, if you're a rich person, or if you've got $20 up your sleeve, please help me market this thing better by making a donation through my tip jar. Go on that QR code, it sends you to my website, and that money comes 100% to me. There's no intermediaries on that except for like the Stripe fees, which is like, really small amount, whatever that is. Anyway, a chat with Drew Chapman, a guy I really respect and like, and he's a good friend of mine, and I think you will get a lot out of it. So, enjoy the episode. Today I'm talking to a guy who I've probably known for almost, I was trying to work out, about 27, 28 years, something like that. And when I met him, he was the junior guy at CFM up on the Sunshine Coast. And I think you were doing the midnight show, mate, or the late show or something like that. And you're on their air tag was Drew Boy. Now, he's gone on since then to be, I think, the music director for Triple M. Were you at 105 as well?
Yeah, same company. Yeah, bounced around a lot. Yeah,
and then you're you're a station manager at River FM. You've done all these other things, and you're like kind of royalty in the radio world. And back then, as I say, your on-air name was Drew Boy. I knew you as Drew, and I don't know now. Should I call you Mr. Chapman? Is that where we're at?
Mate, I think there's probably too many grey hairs to be getting away with Drew Boy anymore. So
yeah. Mate, you've had an amazing career with what you've done, and I do want to just, this is my ego starting up with the first question. I have two things in my career that I'm pretty proud of. One is that I think, as far as I know, I'm the only indie artist in the world to get to number 3 on the Chinese national radio chart, singing in Chinese with Chinese artists. And the second thing is, I think on Austereo, I'm the only, well, you can correct me on this, but there'd be very few, I think, indie artists who've had 3 songs playlisted on Austereo Network. I had in 97, when you interviewed me, I had a song out called Bleeding Valentine. And
I remember it well.
Dave Wilson was the boss at Triple M, and he playlisted that song. In the early 2000s, I did a thing with Triple M called Adopt a Digger, which supported our troops in East Timor, and I had a song called Come Back Soon, which they playlisted. And then shortly after that, Rupert McCall and myself did a song which the Queensland Rugby League took on as the official State of Origin song, called Forever Queensland. So I had 3 songs playlisted on Austereo as an indie artist. I don't think there'd be many other indie artists that had 3 songs on the Austereo.
No.
Were that right?
Absolutely not. And you've got such a great rock voice, mate. It was such a great fit for Triple M and for many formats. You know, you've nailed it. And I didn't know about the overseas stuff until because we hadn't spoken for a few years.
Yeah.
Sort of through the 2000s. And Dave Wilson, the guy you spoke about from Triple M and CFM back in the day, he told me, he's like, mate, he's like one of the biggest artists overseas. I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a trippy journey, mate. I'll talk about that another time. But China, I actually fell in love with China. We get all this bullshit media stuff going on about China, but it was an amazing journey, and I loved the place. It was really good. But mate, radio, I really thank you for coming on today, because and I do have to say, we're doing a late night interview because you had to get your kids to bed And I have 4 kids who are grown up and adults now. But the fact you were getting your kids to bed just brought back so many great memories for me. But I did sip on a bourbon or two while we were doing it, while I was waiting. So I'm, I see you're in your shed and you've got a bourbon going as well.
I absolutely do, mate. It's after 2 hours of getting the kids to bed. I think I've earned this one. So
Yeah, all power to you, mate. But don't miss a moment of those times, because they are actually brilliant times that you will look back on and say, yeah, this is what life's about. It's not all the other stuff, it's
for
about
sure,
the
mate.
kids growing up.
Yeah,
But mate,
absolutely.
so was CFM on the Sunshine Coast, was that your start?
Yeah, well, actually, a little bit before that. So there was Mix FM was there for a long period of time. It was on AM many years ago, but then Mix FM went to FM. That's about the time that I started, sort of out of high school in the mid '90s. So it was just
Mm-hmm.
Mix, based in Nambour.
Yep.
And then in 1996, I want to say CFM came on board, which was for the younger crowd.
Yep.
And because I was like, I don't know, 16 or so at the time, it sort of made sense for me to transition over to CFM. So, yeah, and then we moved to Maroochydore, and I spent a fair few years there, and then started the journey around the country, and lots of moves.
How did people get into radio? Like, was it different than to now, or same thing, or
Uh,
what was your steps that got you into it?
so mine was weird, mate. And it probably doesn't happen a lot these days. Not to say that door isn't closed, but it's a little bit trickier with not as many shifts being available. So my story, briefly, was I was around about 15, and I always used to listen to the radio in my bedroom every
Mm-hmm.
night. And then I started ringing the radio DJ at night time just to make a request and say hi and all that sort of stuff. And it was a guy called
Yep.
Mike Nichols. I don't know if you remember Mike. He was
I
on
remember
nights
the
on,
name. I can't remember. Yeah, I don't remember the person, but I remember the name.
yeah. So he was doing nights on Mix FM, and I'd ring him every night and just, request songs and say things he wanted me to say and all that sort of stuff. And Mum said, why don't you go in there for a visit? I'm like, I can't go in there for a visit. Like, she goes, write him a letter, before the internet, write Mike a letter. I'm like, he's like a
It's sacred
star. I can't,
ground. Yeah.
yeah, I can't, he's like the king. I can't write him, he's not going to respond to my letter. Anyway, long story short, he rang the home phone a few days later, and Mum's like, Mike Nichols is on the phone. I'm like, on on our phone, anyway, I had this great chat with him. He's like, man, I know you're still at school, but come in after school one day and I'll show you around. I was like, man, so just fell in love with the joint. I was a pretty quiet kid, so radio really wasn't, where I was probably supposed to be. But just fell in love with the joint. It's like, man, this is amazing. And I always loved pushing buttons and playing songs for the kids in our street when I was quite young. So I guess I kind of had it in me for a while. And then, yeah, just hung around that radio station, mate, CFM and Mix FM on the sunny coast for couple of years, really, for not a lot of money. I think I got $50 a week, and half of that went to board to mum and dad. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just hung around, mate, and gained the experience, and then moved up to Townsville and started the journey from there.
Oh, were you at CFM in Townsville?
Yeah. So I was up there when we launched that in
Oh,
'99. It was a
wow.
brand new rock station.
Yeah.
Only did about a year and a half up there, because what happened back then was you do a year or so, and then someone would go, "Oh, you want to go to this town, or whatever? Send your tape." So I did that, and yeah, a guy that I knew at Triple M in Sydney sent me a message and said, "Hey, there's a mid-dawn job coming up, like midnight till 6 a.m. You should send a tape." I was like, "Mate, I'm like a 19-year-old kid in town. I won't be going to Triple M Sydney. I don't think I'll be doing that for 10 years." Anyway, I sent the tape. They liked it. Got me down there, and yeah, that's sort of where the Triple M journey began. And then I went from Triple M Sydney to Brisbane to Sydney to Brisbane, I think, then to
Oh,
Canberra, then
wow.
back to Brisbane. Like, I just kept gravitating toward Triple M for about 13 years, I think it was.
Mate, going back to CFM in Townsville, I had you remember Dave Daly?
I do, one of the fat boys.
Dave was like, because my early days, I had some singles out, and I was on Channel 7, and when it was Stereo 10 here, it was like before
Yes.
FM really kicked in, and Dave was on there, but he ended up doing the morning show up at CFM up at Townsville. And when we had troops going to East Timor, one night I was talking to one of the. You used to turn up at Fridays at the Lula Bar when I was playing there. You'd come
I
and
did.
listen to me, mate. Thank you very much for doing that. I think you were checking out the chicks around the place as much as everyone else was.
I
But
think so, mate. I'd have about 3 beers, and that would give me enough courage to go and request a song when you weren't singing.
and I was talking one night to. We had our troops going into East Timor, and one of the
Mm.
security guys was in the. I think he was in the Air Force, but in the military somewhere, and he was on 4 hours standby. He like was waiting for the call to come. And he had to go, and he told me his story and the fears he had and what was going on. And backstage that night, I just wrote a song called "Come Back Soon" about
Mm.
troops going through stuff. And I actually wrote it and played it that night at Fridays, and people loved it. And I did a demo recording of it, and I put it on my website. And Dave Daly saw it, and he played it on their morning show up there in Townsville at
Oh,
CFM. And they were getting all these calls from women pulling over on the side of the road, crying and stuff like that. And he said, "Mate, people love this song, you know." And at that time, Terry Johnson was the North Queensland manager of Forex, and
mm.
he was a mate of mine. He'd come out to me playing. He said, "Mate, we got to do something with this song. I'll get a budget and we'll go and record it and all that stuff and sponsor it." So they did, and we ended up putting together a project with Triple M called Adopt a Digger, where we get schools and all that type of thing to do a fundraiser where they donate. I think it was like $50 or something to the Red Cross, and we worked it out with the Defence Department through Triple M that they would get to adopt a digger,
Mm.
and you never got the soldier's full name. It was just like Corporal, Joe or whatever, Private Joe,
Yeah.
and that the school would do all these they do assignments and drawings and stuff like that, and they send it up to the soldier, and that would just let the soldier feel like the people were remembering that they were there. And
Wow.
Triple M playlisted that song, "Come Back Soon." That was the flagship ship song for it, and it was just back then. Radio played this role that connected community and it connected us all. It was a
Mm.
thing that we had rage on late night TV. We had our Triple M, CFM, whatever else, and it played such an important part in our lives.
Mm.
Mate, you were there at that time. You've seen the progress now to where we are, and a lot of people are wondering what is the role that radio plays now. And
Mm.
you've seen that journey. What? How do you see radio now compared to where it was back then?
I think it's a bit of a multi-layered answer because I have spent a lot of my time in metro, so in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, etc. And now I'm in Brisbane, based in Brisbane.
Mm-hmm. And
But
now
for
you're with the Australian Radio Network now, correct?
yeah, correct. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Based in Brizzy, just doing behind the scenes stuff, and then some on air shifts as well, and just helping out the breakfast show.
Yep.
So yeah, probably half of my time has been metro, the other half has been regional. I think the regional stations I've been at, I think they still very much play that role. And I know that the ARN, the company I work for, the strategy in regional is live and local.
Mm-hmm.
The station I just came from, River 949, it's the only station. Now, there's a few. There's probably Hot Tomato on the Gold Coast, which is also owned by ARN. And there's a couple around the traps that are 100% local. And you see the ratings, mate, they just dominate. It's like, I think River last time pulled like a 35%, and the nearest competitor was like a 14. It's just, it still plays that it's like your best mate, and it's been there for decades, and you got to work hard to make sure it still has that place in the community. But I remember being on air for the big floods about 3 years ago, and the lines are just going ballistic. They don't need radio because they've got social media, and I can get everything I need on social media with the floods. But it's like this sense of community and like this club that would just, the phones were nuts for days, just people telling us what was going on. I had a lady ring up from the caravan park at Esk who was concerned because the water was coming up. And then we've got this guy who's offered to drive his truck up there and get her out and get the animals and all that stuff. So, I mean, this is only a couple of years ago. So in the regional markets, for me, like my experience would suggest that it hasn't changed a hell of a lot compared to metro.
Okay. Okay. So regional Australia, I think, is uh, so important, we kind of overlook it sometimes, particularly when you get to elections and they all focus on the city centres and all that, things like
Yep.
that. But our real Aussie stories are in regional. When you look at the role that it plays in that regional space, um, so I'm just trying to picture where I'm going here.
Mm.
The that community connection. You're saying it happened in a like times of emergency.
Mm.
My vibe is that it also goes beyond that. It's more of a thing that people listen to more regularly than just the emergency times. Would that be right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the ratings we had at River last year, they weren't during the flood or during an emergency. That was just stock standard, a stock standard 4 week period where the survey company rang people and asked them what they listened to. So, no, I definitely get the sense that it's so many different things too. It might be a house fire down the road and the radio station rallies around and gets money together for them, or that kind of stuff, or just their mates. And we got a lot of comments through COVID actually, because everything changed, or their whole world's
Mm.
changed during COVID. But
Tell
we
me
made
about.
sure that even though we couldn't be in the radio station, we spent a fair bit of money on the gear that we could do everything from home and take calls and stuff. So we're still the same. And a lot of comments from people we got were, everything in my world has changed, but thank God you're the one constant. The breakfast show was still on, all the announcers were
Sure.
still on. Um, so that was really good to hear. So I think for me, mate, it feels as strong as ever.
So for an indie artist like myself and a lot of people who look at what I'm doing, we feel that the urban centres in radio are out of our reach. They seem to be the domains of the major labels and everything else. You can't get your song on those radio stations. Is there
Mm.
still room regionally for local artists to get their music played?
I think regionally, absolutely. You're right about the urban metro areas. I mean, it's hard when Taylor Swift's releasing a song every 3 minutes. That makes
Yeah.
it very difficult. But yeah, in the regions, man, and I think you're by far the best example of someone I've witnessed doing this, and that's developing relationships with the local radio station. I know it sounds basic, but it's not basic to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff you did and the lengths you went to help us out at the station in return for playing your song and all that sort of stuff, obviously. But
Yeah.
and you'd signed your CD, and there's a massive buzz when the Bleeding Valentine single rocked up into CFM there. And I've seen it a couple of times along the way. Another one I can think of would be, I'm not sure if you're aware of Casey Barnes, based on the Gold
Mm-hmm.
Coast,
Yeah. Of course.
country singer. Same thing. Like, he's taken off obviously a lot in the last number of years, but still, as recent as last year, you'll get a signed CD, like to River, the guys at River. He'll message us on social media, so he's got that relationship. So it doesn't mean that. I mean, I guess it probably does give him an advantage to a certain point, because we've got a relationship with him. So it's like, any time that he's got a song, we're obviously going to listen to it and see if it's right for the format.
So, mate, from someone who's been so Triple M, you were a music director, correct?
Yeah, yeah, music director, and for most of my time was assistant program director. So sitting beneath people like Dave Wilson, who we spoke about before.
Yeah. So, how much control do you have in an urban centre about what gets played?
Depends where you are.
No,
I think I could.
or urban. So, if you're in Brisbane
Yeah,
and you're working for Triple M or 105, does everything get dictated from down south, or do you have any control at all?
not for every station. So some stations would have a fair bit of local control. For us, we're part of the KISS network, so um, we get a say in everything, but the decisions are predominantly made in Sydney, Melbourne. That's the epicenter.
And is that the same for the regional stations? In regional stations, is it all dictated to you, or do you have more room to change your programming in regional centres?
Uh, if I was talking for ARN, they are still very, very committed to live and local in the regional areas.
Mm-hmm.
Other networks are running the same feed out of one market that goes to 100 markets, including the
Yep.
breakfast show,
Yep.
which I think is is a really bad decision. I think particularly that breakfast show needs to be connecting locally.
Well, I saw that in TV, mate. I used to do a regular spot on a Saturday morning TV show called Saturday Morning Jukebox on Channel
Yep.
7. And you would always have, of course, the main thing was the big videos that were being released that week and the big hits. But Jamie Dunn was producing the show at that time, and Jamie would always have on local spots as well. And it really
Yep.
made it a community platform. And I think a lot of people don't understand that radio is still playing that role a lot in those regional centres,
Mm.
where it's connecting community to artists. And in a lot of ways, I think a lot of artists, they've written off radio. They think it doesn't exist. But part of
Mm.
my chat with you is I like to encourage artists to read in regional areas in particular to re-explore what's happening in radio in regional areas
Mm.
and to build those relationships. And mate, one thing I'd also like to ask you as someone who's run radio stations is the advertising on radio. Is that something that artists should look at embracing as much as like Facebook ads and things like that?
I think so. I think the step above that that's potentially more powerful is, teaming up with the radio station. And if you're the right artist for that format, and that's important too, because I think when artists are sending their stuff to stations, just do a little bit of research on what the station plays, because quite often we'll
Mm-hmm.
just get, death metal and stuff that we that we're
Ain't going
not
to work
able
on
to
the
play.
breakfast show. Yeah, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's definitely worth looking at, but just a 30-second ad in the middle of an ad break is not going to cut it. It's more so teaming up, developing a relationship with that radio station, and saying, like, if you guys have got a big event coming up, I'd consider being part of it. And I know that artists are going to want to, push their new stuff because there's no money in covers. But, if it was a meet halfway kind of situation where you went, insert artist here wants to promote their single or their album. River is having a big 80s party. This awesome local band are gonna do some 80s covers, but they're also going to give you listen to their new songs.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it needs to go above just advertising, but advertising has a place.
What's the role that radio is embracing these days as far as the internet? So it used to be you just, driving your car, you put on, your local station, you listen to that. Now every station seems to have a range of internet channels. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's very important for us, and it's almost like it's reversed. Internet would in its early days would reflect a lot of what radio was doing, but now it's like gone the other way around. And people radio networks are genuinely looking at TikTok people as new radio people. And there's a few examples that are doing very well at the moment, so it really has turned around.
Wow. So you look at the influencers and you work in with them. Is that?
Well, at times, I mean, a lot of the influencers, and I've always worked on older format stations, sort of 40 plus.
Yep.
So, like me, who is still pretty
Like
much
me.
on, yeah, are still pretty much on Facebook, and I'm on TikTok for some funny cat videos. That's about it. But, so for the older stations, it's been less important. But, mate, if you've got a TikTok, person who's got millions and millions of followers, they're connecting, and radio would be silly to not have a look at those people and see if they're suitable for radio as well.
Okay. And one of my big things tonight is I want to show to people who watch this that, honestly, as an indie artist person, talking to radio executives and everything else is in your mind a scary thing. It's like, how do you reach out to those people and everything else? And I just wanted to see that Drew Chapman, who's like one of the most senior guys in Australian radio, is like a normal, ordinary guy who you can reach out to.
Yep.
But if you get an email from someone or a message from someone, an indie artist, obviously you don't want to read through a whole long bio. You don't want to have a whole stuff you've got to go through. What is something that if an artist sends something to you or any regional music director or program director, I'm sorry, this is real basic stuff and probably a bit
No, it's
crazy
good.
for you, but makes sense to people in my industry. how should we approach you?
I think the first thing I look for, and I'll be brutally honest, because I guess that's what it's about.
Please do. Yep.
And I'll put myself back at River because obviously the metro scene, as we've spoken about, is very, very different.
Yep.
So the regionals currently, if I was still there right now, and we get a lot of emails and a lot of links to songs and things like that. The first thing I go looking for is local. And that's not to say that I won't listen to other stuff and I won't respond to other stuff, but my first thing is I'm looking through there going, oh, they're from Esk or they're from Ipswich, or so that's the trigger for me to have a listen straight away. And the reason for that is because the people in regional Australia, or particularly here in southeast Queensland, they're very supportive of local stuff.
Yeah.
Now, that's not just musicians; that's also local businesses. So the amount of people that mentioned to me when I was working at River, go, "Oh, I love hearing all the local ads. It makes me, it helps me decide where to go for dinner." I'm like, I've never been at a station before where people ring up and say, "Well done for the ads."
Yeah.
That's insane. So same goes for artists. It's like, for me to be able to jump on air and say, "Hey, you won't believe, just up the road in Esk, there's actually one from Fernvale. Was it Jeremy Ryan? I'll nail his name shortly. Country music artist. I saw he was from Fernvale, which is 10 k's up the road from River, and we'd never played him before. We play a little bit of country. Jeremy Turner. I knew he'd come to me. And he's doing some great things around the country now, not because of us, but because he's great. And literally, we'd never played anything from Jeremy before. Asked if he wanted to come in and have a bit of a chat with the breakfast show and play his song, because we could. We've got the freedom to do that. And mate, it went absolutely ballistic on socials, and I know he and his manager got a real buzz out of it. So, and this is only like the back end of last year, so it's still possible, mate.
But one of the things I'd love to explore one day with local radio is I have this vision of a lot of local artists are good creatively. They can record their product, they can do that. But most of us, like me, I'm a great example. I'm a terrible business person. I don't know how to run a business properly, and it's been my downfall for most of my career. I would love to connect local businesses with local artists to actually have the artists get advice from the businesses on how to run their business better, how to set up their super, how to do up their tax, how to do all those things and run the basics. And in return, maybe the artist could do some events for the business that the business invites a whole pile of their customers along, and the artist performs, and then a lot of artists are good at social media, so they can help promote that business on social media. And I think that I'm just tossing this out there, mate. I'm not putting pressure on you or anything, but
no, it's a great idea.
It would be great if regional stations could actually work. We could find a way where we could make that a centre point to bring together local artists with local businesses to cross promote and pollinate each other for mutual benefits. And
100%.
I think that's a new area we could explore.
100%. It's like almost like a club of supporters of local music, and mate, there's a lot of people out there that support it. So as there should be.
Well, so during COVID, I became a bit of a voice in my local echo chamber. My interest was just supporting what my fellow brothers and sisters in the music industry were going through. I had no idea about the medical side or the political side or all that stuff. I don't care about that, but it was like how we looked after each other in that echo chamber. But what I had was a lot of people come to me and say, "We'd love to support your industry. We just don't know how." And I think if we can explore ways where we bring together businesses, community, and artists, that can happen very effectively at our local region through radio stations.
Mate, it's a great idea. And then, if a radio station's got businesses who advertise with them that are involved in it, it's another reason for the stations to go, hey, we'll get behind that,
Exactly. And then if you've got 4, 5, 6 artists that you can actually put on an event with those businesses sponsoring that event, and the radio station is broadcasting that event or something, you've got some real momentum happening between everybody. And mate, this is what I'm trying to do through my little podcast here, is just bring together areas in our community where we can have these discussions, and they might work, they may not work, but
it's worth a try.
Exactly. An important part is talking to someone like you who is so high in the radio industry to get your feedback on would that work for radio, doesn't it work. There's no point flogging a dead horse in what we're doing, but if there's
Mm.
legs there, well, let's explore it and see what happens.
That's it. And the great thing about it is too, you could do your 99% of that stuff behind the scenes, with
Yeah.
visiting people and sending out leaflets or emails or whatever. I know a blanket email is not going to do the world of good, but no, I love the idea, mate. And it probably just starts with one or two businesses that are into it,
Yep.
and all of a sudden it grows. I wonder if you get into like the Chamber of Commerce that each city
Great
has, like
idea.
Ipswich
Yeah.
has got a big one, Toowoomba's got a big one.
Yep.
Might be worth planting the seed in that kind of environment where you've already got 50 to 100 businesses in the one room.
And we need to understand behind all these discussions that for artists, it's about building their career and building ways they can make money through gigs and their profile. For businesses, it's about getting exposure through that to the local community. And for radio, it's about developing a network where they can get more advertisement. And we have to be honest about the fact everyone needs to commercialize what they're doing. Radio is not there as like a just a community benefit. Well, ABC is supposed to play that role, but most commercial networks are about they need advertisers. And if we all work together to build those networks, hopefully we can, the artists can win, local business can win, and radio can win by getting in more advertisers.
Mate, I think it's a genius idea. If there's anything I can do to help, then you know where to get me. I love it.
Well, mate, this is what it's about. It's about throwing those ideas out there and seeing what works and what doesn't. And I really appreciate you coming on because someone of your stature gives a bit more credibility to my discussion here, even after a bourbon or two. So
No, it's so good
how's
to
your
chat,
going,
mate.
mate? Have you been going into yours? I don't want to hold you up from drinking your
No,
bourbon
I've only
over here.
got I've done about a quarter, mate. I've slowed up. I've only had my first one, so I do have to be up
Okay,
at like 4:45 in the morning. So I reckon it'll just be the one tonight.
I'm sorry. There's a 4:40 in the morning. That's a
Yeah, you
thing.
musos. Well, no, you mused that. You would have seen a few 4:40s, but you would have been getting to bed at
Yeah,
that
but that's
time,
when
right?
you go to bed, mate. That's when you go to bed.
Yeah, that's right.
People wake
I'm
up at that time, really?
not by choice, mate. I'll tell you.
Mate, what's your greatest love? Is it the communication of radio or is it music?
Oh, good question.
Got you
Jeez.
there.
You have. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm always listening to music. Always.
Yeah,
Like, I know a few of my radio mates like they'll switch off on the weekend. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, sure, the music I listen to on the weekend is probably a lot different to what I play during the week,
sure.
but it's all music. And my girls, I've got a 6 and a 1 year old, and there's music always in the house. So
Yeah.
it's a true love, particularly that '90s era, because I grew up on it. I'm so passionate about it, and
Yeah.
discovering new stuff as well.
So, what's your
Um,
favourite stuff from the '90s? What's your go-to?
I was into so my favorite album of the '90s, or probably of all time, is "Throwing Copper" by the band Live.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Um, Loved all that sort of alternative stuff. Smashing
Was
Pumpkins,
was
Green
Lightning
Day.
Crashes on that album?
Yes, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, one of the, and I love Storms too. So that song just did it for me. Lightning Crashes. I love Storms. The band were great, but no, I think I've worn out about 5 copies of that album over the years.
Hmm.
So that's, yeah. I think Metallica's The Black Album got a fair beating as well. So that early to mid '90s rocky stuff was where I was into. I used to buy. This is a bit of an admission, but when I was delivering papers on the Sunshine Coast before I got into radio, I
Hmm.
would buy every single that was on in the top 40 charts. That's a lot of
Wow.
singles, particularly the first time you do it, because there was 40 to buy, and then there might be like 5 new entries the week after, so you buy 5 singles, and they weren't cheap then. It was like what, about $7 or so for a CD single from memory.
Hmm.
So that's where all of my paper money went, was buying CDs.
Wow. A mate of mine he's passed away now, but don't know if you heard of him. But a guy called Richie York. Richie was he ended up being the editor of Rolling Stone in Canada. He became John Lennon's publicist. He wrote the official biography for Led Zeppelin, Van Morrison. He's just
Wow.
one of the major muso journos of the world. But he started his career actually on a radio station up here in Toowoomba. and it was a kid, and Stevie Wonder's first single had come out, and it was under the name of Little Stevie Wonder. And Richie heard the song, and he played it on his radio. He was doing like the Midnight to Dawn or something like that, and he played Stevie Wonder's single. And he got told by the radio station, "You don't play that black music on this station," you know. And Richie didn't take that very well, and he actually next session, next shift he locked himself in the studio and played it like over and over again. And they was one of the things they knocked the door down. They kicked him out. He lost the job. He went to Canada and became editor of Rolling Stone.
Wow.
Question for you. Going to put you on the spot here.
Would I lock myself in the studio? Possibly.
Would you? Yeah, would you? If you believed in the music that much, would you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did lock ourselves in the studio once, but it wasn't about music. That was in Townsville because we wanted to do the breakfast show, but we never got a chance, a mate and I. And then they got rid of about 3 breakfast shows. And then the 4th one, we're like, right, it's our turn. It's our turn. And then we did a bit of a stunt. The boss didn't know. Like, it was actually real. We were in there for 28 hours, I think, which was, it was all fun and games until we needed to go to the toilet. And then, lucky there was a couple of Coke bottles in there. That's all I can say.
I mean, this is a guy who's gone on to be a major executive in the radio network of Australia. So that's awesome.
It was a long time ago.
Mate, that's brilliant. Mate, thank you so much for having this chat.
Thank you, mate.
It's like, I'm just doing the grassroots things, mates, seeing what I can do and hope that we just generate some conversation amongst us all. And getting to talk to guys who are at the top end of the radio world, that indies can listen to and listen to what you're saying. I think a take out of this is there is room for us to explore, particularly in regional radio or in regional radio, how artists and events and local businesses and radio can work together. 100%. And I think we should explore that more. And mate, if you're up to it, as I develop this thing, I'd love to get you on again. And
for sure.
Maybe if we find a business or two that has some questions about how they can work with regional radio, maybe they can jump on and have a chat with you.
Absolutely, mate. Reach out anytime, seriously. And I love what you're doing, mate. Like, and you've always been like this since I met you back in 97 or so. It wasn't just about Nick Phillips. It was about the industry. You've been like it since day one. Thanks, and I love the fact that you're doing your best to help everybody. Still to this day, mate, it's awesome.
Mate, if we don't have a healthy grassroots industry, we don't get the Keith Urbans, we don't get the Powderfingers, we don't get those artists. And back in the 80s, 90s, we had a really healthy grassroots scene. You had Drag and you had In Excess, you had Chisel, you had all these acts that would play locally at the local pubs, and I'd get to support them as a local artist. And you guys would get to talk to them on radio and they go on the local TV station. We've lost that local sense of what our industry is. We still have great artists out here, but they have no way to connect to the community properly. And we need to fix that problem as seniors in the industry like you and I are. We need to find solutions for the next generation to make sure that our industry keeps growing. And it really, I don't get political in these chats. I'm trying not to do that. I will do it. But on both sides of government, they look at our industry as something that needs to be propped up through grants and all these other things. Mate, the greatest product being consumed by people at the moment is digital content. Mm-hmm. And music is probably next, obviously music and video. Music is a major part of that. And we create great digital content here that should be a major product for expanding domestic consumption, but also being a major export product. As we export coal and iron ore and those things, it should be music.
100%.
Music should be, equated along with that.
Yep.
And our politicians, they don't see it that way. They don't get it. We can't just sit here and bitch about that. We have to just say, well, we have to make our industry better. And it's people like you and me who've had the experience in the industry that need to step up and say and push that point and say we need to be better. We need to make our economy more reliant on our digital content that we make, and help our industry grow. And mate, it happens through conversations like this. So I really thank you for that, mate.
100%. And that's why I keep going back to your idea about getting those businesses together. I think that's brilliant, mate. The more I think about it, the more ideas I've sort of got surrounding that. I think that's an absolute killer, and that's a great starting point.
Well, mate, can I let that sit with you, and you and I will have some chats offline about how we can maybe approach that
sure.
more effectively. And
as long as I can have bourbon during that, that's fine.
Mate, that's if it's a breakfast meeting, of course.
Yeah, of course. You'll still be up, mate.
Mate, you look after those beautiful children of yours, as I have done with mine, and
will do, mate.
We keep living the love of music. And guys, this is what this dude's sitting in his shed here. This is what the major executives in radio in Australia look like and act like, and they're real people who have genuine heart, they have genuine soul, and they love our industry as much as we do as artists. So, Drew Chapman, brother, thank you very much for your time in doing this and taking a punt on talking to me.
Anytime, mate. I appreciate the time. It's great to see you again, mate.
Mate, thanks for taking a punt on talking to me in '97. Yes.
I forget how it started, mate, but I reckon it would have been me with a few beers coming up and requesting Summer of '69 or something.
No. We actually had an official introduction. I remember going to the station and being a bit overawed and thinking, what this is going to be like. And I remember you sitting down and having a chat with me, and you were just such a nice, real bloke, and you were a lot younger than me, but you were like intelligent, and the interview was a good interview. And I remember you coming to Fridays after that.
Right.
I'm thinking, I better toss in Bleeding Valentine here and make it look like I'm not just a cover artist, that I do myself and all that stuff. And man, you're just great to talk to from day one. And as I say, we haven't been regular mates. We don't get drinking or stuff like that. But every time I call you, you've taken my call. You've been willing to listen to what I've had to say. And mate, total respect, brother. Really, really thank you very much for that.
Always. No, and same to you, mate.
Yeah. Drew Chapman, radio legend. Hope you guys have got a lot out of listening to what Drew has to say. I will talk to Drew offline, and we'll progress our thoughts around how regional entities can work together. But this is chat one, and mate, thanks for being part of the Local and Live.
Legend, mate. Thanks for thinking of me, and have a great night, eh?
Of course, mate.